Hey, yo, what's going on, guys? We have episode number 35 of Marvel Yap today. Dance is back, and we're going to be talking about some OTA hopes / predictions, as well as the 4-cost cards we have in the game, as well as what are some good card generators, what are some bad card generators. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. And as always, we are joined with the hostess with the mostest, who's back now, Not My Dance. How are we doing today, Dance?
I am back. I'm doing better. God, what was it? I mean, I was doing good. I was out of town. I was in Ireland for a week. It was a good time. Also had the internet down before that, so I got that fixed like yesterday. So I don't know. In general, doing better. There's a delay on this episode being uploaded, as well as I think our audio ones had some problems due to everything else.
But they're up now.
They are up now for previous weeks. This one will be up soon. But anyway, we're doing good. I'm doing good. How are you doing, my man?
Man, I am doing fantastic. You know, we just had a live yap this past episode, so now we're just doing a recording right now, and we have Kahori actually releasing very, very soon, more soon than actually or normally. And then yeah, Dance was out of town. He just told you guys he was in Ireland, so that's freaking really sick. He got to go over there. He said he swam actually across the pond, which is very interesting.
I did. That's exactly what happened. I will just, dude, it's so cool. When I'm out there, I base how old things are by America.
Okay.
Because, we just use the worst measurements. We'll be like, 5,280 feet is a mile for some dumb reason or whatever, right? I don't know. 3 feet in a yard. I don't know, whatever. I based everything based off of how much older is this than America. Okay. Was my logic. And I went to this because they have castles like everywhere out there. Dude, I saw a castle, and across the street of it was a Starbucks. I kid you not.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so cool. It's just like normal for them out there because they have so much like history and everything like that out there. We're going to this one other castle, and we taking this tour, and the guide's like, yeah, so this chest right here, this chest, it was made we believe in around if I'm remembering correctly, 1200.
Wow.
And in my mind, I'm like, that's twice as old as America.
Yeah.
At least, right? That's I don't. So that's that. I love that stuff. That's super cool to me. I will say, awesome stuff. Really cool. The food was pretty garbage. I got really tired of potatoes.
Really? You did not like the food?
Oh God, the food was so mid.
Oh man,
extremely mid. It's just, I don't know. They're just an island, right? They haven't gone everywhere else. I've been to.
They haven't experimented.
Apparently, I went to London a couple of years ago, and out there, right, they're a lot more connected, right? Because British literally steal everything else, or they did, or whatever. I don't remember how it works. I'm just saying that's someone who doesn't remember history well enough. So apologies for getting it wrong. But the food and that stuff, right? They have direct connections to India, Italy, and that was it. Like even just the China, like every single type of food that I would get out there felt so much more rich. It was not like flavorful. The flavors were still lacking, but it was still like better. If that, I don't know. It's different. It was cool. That stuff was really cool. But also, I had a great time in Ireland. It just, what is it? The food was the only thing I think that was lacking during the time. And then, Tucker, where did you go this last week?
This last week, did anything happen this last week?
I don't know. I just yapped a bit. So I was really hoping you had something.
What happened? I think I'm going on paternal leave very soon. Actually, this is something I found out. I don't know. We might be having a baby really soon, way sooner than we thought, and might be having some announcements about that very soon. I don't know. Maybe that's some big news or something. I don't know.
Yeah, not as big news, obviously, as the subjects that we have for today's Yap, because we're not gonna spoil all of Tucker's real life stuff here. No, we're gonna talk about starting off today with our desires for this OTA. There's a lot of cards that we want to talk about here. A lot of them that maybe we don't want to see these big changes. Maybe it's not gonna be that crazy stuff, but still, like there are so many little cards that we're like, could we just. And not to mention, speaking of littler cards, how about the bigger cards, those 4-cost cards? Because Kaori's coming out this week, a new 4-cost card. So we got to talk about all those different 4-cost cards. And because Kaori's also coming out, we got to discuss the card generators. Like you got your Kate Bishops, you've got your Valentinas, your Iron Patriots that recently got nerfed, all that stuff that Kaori's going to have some good synergy with. So it's going to be interesting trying to conversate about those. But some pretty fun stuff here today, Tuck.
Yeah, and I think we wanted to hone in on the card generators too, because maybe there are not a lot of them that you guys can think of off the top of your head, but there's a decent amount of them actually in game. And of course, there's also locations that do that. And then these OTA, what we want, these changes necessarily, maybe some of them are predictions, maybe some of them are not. I mean, Sam Wilson still is in 40% of decks right now, but I don't think we're actually talking about Sam Wilson today because you guys are talking about Sam Wilson. But starting off with some of these changes over here, Dan's actually has some very, very fruitful and I think like kind of just different changes than what we're kind of like maybe thinking of when it comes to the current state of the meta. One of them is going to be Yellow Jacket.
All right, yeah. So, I mean, I feel like there's you can easily talk about the cards that everyone wants to get hit, right? Neither one of us, like you said, are talking about Sam Wilson because why everyone else is. Why would we? That's not any true conversation. We already know this. We said it for like 3 or 4 different yaps already. We're good. I want to talk about Yellow Jacket. Yellow Jacket's, I think, one of the consistently worst cards in the game. And I want to see it. I want to see it go to a 0-3.
Okay.
But I don't think it can go to a 0-3 with its current ability. I think it goes to an ongoing as a 0-3, same ability. So Yellow Jacket as a 0-3, ongoing, afflict your other cards here with -1 power. And Tuck, I did this for you.
Oh, so I can have a 0 cost Sauron card?
Exactly. This guy gets it. But like it works well with Sauron. It actually has Luke Cage synergy, even though I'm annoyed with the card. It does that as well. And with all the other ongoing styles of decks right now, it feels like a really fun card to try to slip in. So I like it.
Yeah, and it would work with Nightmare too, because then it just becomes Wasp, Yeah,
we're not talking about any of those data mine cards today, but Nightmare is.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, Nightmare's gonna be sick.
Yeah, no, I don't hate it. I think it being ongoing kind of helps compensate more for the extra power, so I'd be here for it. I don't think Sauron needs a 0 cost card, but something to bring life just to this card I think is nice.
Yeah. Again, I'd agree with that. Sauron doesn't need it, but I kind of still want it.
Yeah, no, I think
the card sucks.
And like also in like Thor decks too, like if you play this onto your Beta Ray Bill now, it doesn't, reduce the power he gains from Stormbreaker because it's ongoing opposed to on reveal, so it's not a affliction in the same sense. I mean, it's kind of an affliction, but like it doesn't offset, him getting the extra power.
And it doesn't hurt your misery / fire hair stuff. I don't know. I feel like this card could use some love. And again, Enchantress got a point of power, so they could mess with ongoing cards. And I think it's an earlier series card, but I think it's well worth it.
Yeah, I don't hate that change. I think that'd be fun. Another just minor change I'm thinking too is you just put Captain Marvel back to a 4/6. That's all I want. Just give her an extra point of power. 4/6 is of course what she's been up to. She's been up to 4/6. She's been down to 4/5. Like it's been an uphill battle, but I think right now it wouldn't be the worst thing for Captain Marvel to be a 4/6 right now. It's kind of like the standard, and I think this card may even get some value with Kahori, like Alex and Cozy were talking about. Could be interesting. I don't think it's a main card, of course, for that. But buffing up, a Captain Marvel is pretty cool. It used to be old Shuri things, but now no one plays Shuri anymore.
It's unfortunate. This is one that, again, I like Captain Marvel as a card. I love cards that I think are consistently middling. And we'll talk about some of the more recent middling cards in a bit when we get to those forecasts. But with Captain Marvel, it does its job, but I don't think the point of power would hurt it. I don't know. It's really a weird card. So yes, I like it, but I'm also scared of it. If that makes sense. Because if it is just too good, then it kind of sucks. But it could also potentially even be balanced for what it's worth by a different card I know that you have, which I know I'm not trying to push. We were going through this kind of quickly, which we do have 12 of them, I think, today in total.
Yeah.
But this is one that if they did it, I'd be like, we'll see it. But it's not one that I think I'd ever be willing to have the cojones to recommend like you do.
No. So if that changes, I think, But you have some very interesting changes. We'll hold off on those just for a second. I want to hear your Rocket and Groot take.
I'll hit you with this one, and I've got one other card with it as well. That's basically the exact same change. I just want a point of power knocked here.
Okay, so 3/2.
3/2, and another card that I have here is Juggernaut. Just 3/2, especially with high voltage coming back.
Okay.
Both those cards are so extremely beneficial in high voltage, and they're just good cards no matter what. They're just good on rate cards. So I think both of them could easily stand to lose that singular point of power, and they would still be completely fine. The effect of their ability is still extremely good. I don't think that you would be at a big loss if that occurred.
No, I like it. I like that going to a 3-2. I honestly have Punisher going to a 3-2 +2 power ongoing. So he caps out at a 3-10. If your opponent has a full lane.
I like 3-1 better because
3-1, so then he can't be Shang-Chi'd.
Exactly.
Okay.
I won't even lie. That's exactly why. Yeah.
Okay.
And also, I feel like 3-10 as a base potential is a bit too high of a ceiling.
3-1 also could give him Ravonna value.
Shh, Tucker, don't say this. Don't say the quiet part out loud. What are you doing?
I would.
That's the other
honestly,
thing.
I'd like the 3-1 because like Mr. Fantastic's a 3-1 that's essentially a 3-7 more adjacent.
I wouldn't even honestly. You know what? Because it gets Ravonna value, I would say 3-0.
No, I think we try 3-1. We try 3-1 first. If it's too good, we go 3-0.
That's fair. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, I like it. Especially considering there's some amazing Punisher variants. Such a cool character, as some of y'all watching Boarding, which I do know Tuck's caught up on.
Which is why they have to buff these cards, because they always buff cards because of pop culture, like they did with Agatha, like, you know. They did,
yeah.
So like maybe they buff Daredevil and Punisher.
Isn't there a Punisher special like next year, I want to say?
Yep, they're making like a spin-off, either like
God, does that mean we have to wait like a year for a buff then? Or do they do it sooner?
No, they'll come out with a Frank Castle card, and that'll be our Punisher buff. All right, so
that hurts me, Tucker. That hurts me a little
because
bit.
It's true.
At least it's, you know what? At least it's, again, not to harp on an old subject. At least it's not as dumb of a combination as Rocket and Groot as a card. 100% still should have been Cloak and Dagger. It's a combo card in Marvel Rivals. Combo character in the game would have made so much more sense. They move on their own already. Their movement card. I'm sorry.
Dance, you have another. Is it a crazy change you got for Suki here, or what you got going on for the Supergiant?
This probably isn't as crazy a one. I want Sugi to 3. I want it 3 cost.
3-4.
No, 3-3. I'd say 3-3 because I think Surfer decks would be amazing with this.
I would love Supergiant to be a 3 cost. I won't even lie. I would love Supergiant to be a 3 cost.
Well, no, I think they're scared of this card. 100%. This card has been atrocious for a while. And I think that they are scared of what this card will do. And I feel like I just want them to take these risks. I say go 3-3. Go 3-2. I don't care. Put it in a 3 cost area so we get that like Surfer stuff. Bring that deck back, because I don't think that deck's been really great for a hot second. And we'll talk about like the meta and all that stuff probably later, but I think a 3 cost Supergiant, just simple as that. I think it'd be fun.
That would be really cool. And like this was, of course, really dominant during like the Annihilus time, where Annihilus was everywhere with the 10-powered Sentry, 10-powered Voids. I don't hate that, actually.
Well, let me tell you the whole plan, okay? Because you play Supergiant when you play Supergiant, you play it on turn 3. Turn 4, guess what you're putting behind it? Zorbman. Because then on the turn 6, you end it with your Silver Surfer. Then Absorbman reveals.
Yeah.
And you get like it's just such a simple, perfect setup that I feel the card just needs some love here, and I think that's an easy way to do it.
And let's say they hate it, okay? Let's say they hate that it's an on reveal, right? What if there's a world where you go activate
1 cost activate?
Yeah.
Like, because wasn't it a 1 cost when it first was data mined? I feel like.
I think so, but like
it was busted, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Activate. I still would make it like a 3 cost activate in worst case scenario, right? But like
I'd say 2 cost.
But like I just think if they don't want to do on reveal, activate could make this card really interesting, especially making it situational into some of these combo decks, you know?
So the original version, and then it was changed. It was a 1 cost 2 power card. Oh my god, that card was busted. I forgot about this. On reveal, all cards played this turn and next turn don't reveal until the game ends. And that was a data mine. So this was like not confirmed by second dinner. But like this turn and next turn? I don't know if that's what, like, maybe that is happening and it brings that back, but I don't even know how good that'd be still here.
Yeah. Well, like, I'm thinking about this, like, because I'm going to go ahead and, you're gonna rip the band-aid off because like this card. So like playing Supergiant into a discard kind of like matchup, like you make the Bullseye have to activate later on, or like they have to hold their MODOK and they can't necessarily do their MODOK thing because they're just not unrevealed. So like I think that would be a very interesting change into this matchup specifically, or even into a lot of the Sarah control that people are still messing around with. So like I think that's okay, but like the main change I would do to Bullseye is make it -1 instead of -2. That's one of the main things I would do for his affliction. Make it less.
I don't even know if I'd mind that. Yeah. It's, again, I don't think the card is I don't think the deck or the deck itself is busted. It's just been good for a while, right?
It's like too consistently good. Like not in the sense where like I hate facing it, but like I know into this matchup I'm like, well, if I don't have the power, I like have to leave because this card is kind of just crazy at the moment, which is why this other change I have here is actually going to be for the Swarm. I want to remove that the copies cost 0, and I want them to cost 1. It still works with Bullseye, but I say this because I think it honestly gives more value to Gorgon, which I don't think is getting a lot of play right now, and into that matchup would be actually a really good immediate counter instead of having to just have Mobius in there, because Mobius is like the only way to counter the Swarms right now. Because even if they are discarded with Gorgon, they still cost 1, and Bullseye's still able to discard them.
What if it just costs 1 less?
1 less?
I think I'd like that more, because then you get a payoff more for discarding more and more of the Swarms. Because then, if you have 2 1s, then you still would have a 1 in your hand. But then you get, and if you discard again, it goes 1, and then turns into 2 0. Like you still could get to this place. It just takes a second longer.
1 less would be interesting. It'd be probably a good start just to see if that does affect anything.
It's a middle ground between those two, because I think it's fair what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I think that's a big change, straight up.
1 less, honestly, I think makes more sense too with that archetype. Like just be interesting to kind of just see what happens there. I just do think like there has to be some sort of adjustment, kind of like how Hela was just too consistent. They had to add other changes to that deck itself before touching Hela, or even after touching Hela. So like there's just some minute little thing I feel like they need to kind of mess around with this.
So I want to save mine for the end of these, but I have a change to a card in this this type of deck that I actually think is cooking.
Okay.
And I'll explain my logic here whenever we get to it, but I'm keep watching. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Then you want to talk about your other change, kind of also that relates to our topic for today.
Yeah, let's talk about this. Dude, Zabu's too good still. Like I was saying, I think when it came out, and you can check old episodes, I think I said the card was going to be mid.
You did.
As this change. I will happily eat my words. I will eat them with a spoon. The card's still too good, I think. I think the card is just too good. And I mean, according to Untapped, it's currently at 16%.
Okay.
And I think just as a card reducing cost thing, I think it's too consistent. I think it's too easy.
But you said 16%, which is for a 1-drop, by the way. 16%, which is pretty high.
I wish there was a way, by the way, you could sort by the 1-drops. But I think if you organize it based simply off of popular, I think it's the most popular 1-drop currently in the game.
Okay.
No, it's actually beaten by the other card I want to talk about, another card. But
is Nico third?
Number 3 is actually the Hood.
Okay.
I believe that, because especially with this week, I think it's gonna be that's gonna be a fun one to talk about. But I think Zabu needs to lose power. And I don't know if he loses all of his power or he loses just 1. But I think Zabu needs to lose power.
1/1 Zabu, I think, is not that bad. I think it's still immediate, like it's a disruption. And you look at like the other 1/2s, right? You have your Nico, you have your Loki. I mean, Zabu.
I don't think Loki's good. So as someone who plays against Loki, I will snap them to pretty much turn 1. You can't bring up Black Knight. Black Knight's not good. That's the worst.
I know. I'm just saying. I'm thinking of like 1/2s. I'm just bringing up 1/2s. Like
yeah. But with Loki, I'd actually argue that Loki's still bad because it's I love doing it. If I get Loki'd on turn 1, they don't know what I'm playing. I snap them immediately. Because they don't know what they have or what they're playing now. They don't know what they are playing or what they're playing against. Okay. You have such an information advantage then that I really think Loki's still not great. But anyway, I just think Zabu needs to lose point power. The fact that you can win locations with him still, I think it's just what really does a lot for him.
And decrease of Killmonger right now. Yeah,
exactly. I think it's a decrease of Killmonger, like all that stuff. It's so good for him. So I think that this card, losing 1 point, losing 2 points, honestly, I could see it as a 1-1 or a 1-0. I still like this card. This card's still fun.
This card's actually relevant in the meta right now, which is crazy. But no, I could see him at a 1-1.
It is. Yeah.
With what he does,
I
too.
think Zabu's. Right. Especially with all, again, we're going to talk about the 4-cost cards, but I think if you're talking about 4-cost cards, Zabu warps every single 4-cost card still. And it does not feel as bad as it previously did, but it's still not good.
You mean like bad to face?
Bad to face, but also like, I think it's bad from a design point still. Because then you have to look at all of your 4-cost cards and be like, okay, is this worth it is this okay as a 3?
Yeah. Which is also really interesting to look at this in concept. Like originally with ongoing Zabu, you were seeing a lot of like more 4-cost cards in the deck. Now you're seeing 3, unless you're playing that Sarah control list and you have 5 4-cost cards for your Zabu and Sarah, which is crazy, by the way. And it works. That deck is putting up numbers. So like I think that's
because they're
also yeah.
I mean, I will say I saw that deck and I saw 5 4-cost cards. I'm like, nah, Zabu's too good here.
Yes. Literally,
like I get it that when I draw Zabu turn 1, I've got 3 all 3 of my other 4-drops in my deck. I don't like that's what happens to me, negativity bias. But it's just too good. I think Zabu's still just too good, and I think as time has gone on, it makes it in the ongoing like this card is if you look, Tuck, would you actually pull up the best decks right now? And I'm pretty sure if you look at the top 4 currently, I think in Infinite, I think he's in 3 of them.
Wrong scene. Yeah, so he is in Sauron.
Yeah, ongoing
and Control. Which this is the 5 freaking.
That's why I'm saying it 1-0. That's why I'm going 2 points here.
Well,
and especially as a 1-drop, it's just too good.
And honestly, what also made this card more relevant as well is accessibility. Now that he is Series 3, everyone has access to this card, which is great. But he is solid, like super.
Yeah, make him
solid.
Series 5 again, Tuck. Second in, let's make him Series 5 again. That'll save us here, please. Thank you. Yeah, I don't know. 5. You can do 5 4-cost cards in a deck, and it works because of him.
Yeah. Sauron's getting value.
Yeah, you literally.
But
you get like 3. I think you put like 3, and that's all you need. I've seen people run it with just 2 because it's just.
Yeah. No, I'd be okay with Zabu losing a point of power, but like I just brought up Uncle Ben, and I still think Scream is like one of the best cards, if not the best card in the game. The value wise, even though Luke Cage exists. Still, Luke Cage has kind of fallen off a little bit. Like, his play rate has dropped.
I'm glad. It's not. I still don't like the card.
Yeah. But the value this card continues to get just consistently, wouldn't be surprised if it's banned from high voltage, is just insurmountable. So I wouldn't be surprised if this gets nicked another point of power, like goes to a 2-1. I don't necessarily think you need to decrease this steal function. Like, I don't think that's necessarily
I don't think you could do that.
But I think 2-1, maybe 2-0 if they're feeling like this card is way too good, but I don't think it needs to be 2-0. But I think this needs to be at least addressed in some way again in the OTA. If it's not Scream, it's some of her enablers that need to be touched. But I think the arrow change is something they thought of that was like, oh yeah, the arrow's doing a lot of things. But I think arrow, now you're seeing, really wasn't the issue.
Yeah. I think it was just the fact that it let you combine Scream and Surtur. I think was the thing, and I think that was the deck that was just kind of busted with it.
Yeah.
I don't remember stuff correctly.
That's exactly what it was.
That might be it. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I like the idea of this change no matter what. I think it's still a solid change. I just don't know. I don't know what would be best still.
Yeah.
It also really makes me wonder because I feel like there are times where we're like, okay, this deck is busted, and then Second Dinner has said in the past like, oh yeah. Doom 29 is actually still putting out the best numbers, so we nerf him. which he is back, by the way, but it still hasn't felt atrocious the way this new version is. But I still don't like it, and I wonder. I feel like there's another deck like that, and Scream could easily be it, where it's just like, this deck is just the best deck in the backline. They know it, and they're just not telling us. And then when the OTA comes out, we'll find out, like, hey, this deck was actually busted, and this one's getting hit here.
Which is what I wonder, like, we're not complaining about Sauron right now, but, like, Shang-Chi's still very relevant in the meta, but Sauron's still winning games and not running armor. So, like, it's very interesting to think about that conceptually. I think the Sauron change was really good. Like, making him a 2-cost, I think, was great. But they might adjust some of that, I think, more into some of these next and future OTAs. And, like, we are not talking about data mines today. But with some of these cards potentially coming out, they might address some of those as well. But before Dance does talk about his last card, we're going to talk about Valkyrie, which is another one of those cards. I know we talked about Sauron, which is why I'm kind of leading into here. Like, Valkyrie, I really like the idea Dance came up with making this either a 4-cost or making it an activate, maybe a 4-cost activate. I think the activate function of this card would be very interesting. It gives you another mind game, and like I think with Snap, the more these games are maybe not necessarily getting too complex or more complex, but I think with the like addition of Captain Carter, where you're playing your cards matters to be able to understand what cards are going to be boosted, unless they're Mysterios, is going to be very
annoyed that Mysterio doesn't work. We'll talk. Sorry, we'll talk about that.
But this is another one of those cards where I'd be like, oh, Valkyrie's on the board. When are they going to activate this? Do I need to fight for priority now? Do I need to kind of hide my priority? Like, I think this would be another just cool card to kind of add that kind of like psychology aspect of a card game, which is cool. Like, you face that every time you're facing Airshim because you're like, well, what cards do they have? Why do they snap me? But I think Valkyrie being relevant would be cool again.
Was she ever really relevant? Am I remembering a time? Or misremembering?
Well, with when there was a lot of junk and like Annihilus and stuff.
Junk stuff, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So like relevancy, I say with an asterisk. Not like she was in every deck, but she was always a card you did have to watch out for like at least 1 month within the last like 2.5, 3 years.
That's entirely okay. Yeah, that's fair. I think, I mean, I've said I wanted Valkyrie to get hit for a while. I feel like there's so many cards that I think we've said it many times. Maybe I've said it many times and I'll just repeat the same thing over and over again. But like, how many times are they going to buff all the new cards or nerf the new cards and then leave these cards that have been in the game for a while, these existing pieces that are interesting or cool characters, like Punisher, you got Valkyrie, you have all these characters that I think are really sick. And then they're just like, nah. I think they're just scared or they just don't. I don't know what their logic is behind not touching those. They have a logic. I'm assuming they do, right? Second Ed are smart. They know what they're doing. I just don't get why those aren't a thing.
They said, well, the new stuff is what sells. It's not the old stuff. So we gotta adjust all the new stuff.
What is it? I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. Well, I'm gonna give you a hot take before we talk about the last one, Tuck. I've been thinking about snap packs more over my when I was out of town. I think snap packs are a great economy change, and I think people are going to hate them in a month. And not because of the packs themselves, because they are releasing more cards. And as soon as more cards, I think, Tuck, we're going to get inflation in Marvel Snap because of all the new cards that they're going to be adding, and then also giving us more, then still making them cheaper, more accessible, but then you put more of them out there, we're going to be in the exact same situation, but people will just have more cards.
Yeah, I can totally see what you're saying too, and I think the other aspect of the new system too is the new Series 5 card packs opposed to the old Series 5 card packs. The ones that include cards from this season and last season, and then the ones that include cards from any season. I think it's going to be, or almost in season. I think it's like 2 or 3.
I don't know if we know the details there even, but yeah.
Which they said in the blog, they had some reference to like there's 2 different Series 5 packs, 2 different Series 4 packs.
Oh, okay, that stuff. Yeah. Okay.
So it's going to be interesting to see how those work conceptually too. With no duplicates, that's going to be great. And
that's a big thing. Yeah. But because every single time you open a snap pack, I think you're guaranteed to get a new card in that group
Yes.
Basically, I think is how they said it was going to work. And I think, you know, I probably am wrong about like 1 month. I think 3 or 4 months down the line, after that stuff gets released, that's when we're going to start having people complaining, because that's where the issues are going to start occurring, because people are going to be seeing like, hey, I actually have a lot of potential issues here because I can't get everything else that I want to get now because there's so many new cards.
Yeah, there's 30 new cards, and I've opened 15 snap packs, and I'm still missing 15 cards because of RNG. I've not been lucky enough to get the one I wanted. Prime example being also Sanctum Showdown. If we didn't have all the resources from Twitch drops, some people would be stuck with Uncle Ben and would not have Gorgon or Laufey, which, to be fair, aren't crazy relevant at the moment, but imagine they were. Imagine like a Laufey was an Erisham, let's say, and you missed out on an Erisham because you got Uncle Ben. Like, that is definitely a concept I think we're not talking about right now, but I totally see what you're saying.
Because right now, as according to like data mines and stuff, we've got about like 3 extra Series 4 cards coming on, which is cool. But as future series and they add more, I think, Tuck, we're going to get to a point where they're adding 10 new cards a month at minimum.
Yeah.
Especially with some data mine like skills potentially releasing directly.
I wonder if it's week to week or beginning of the month too. That's the other thing. How are they going to be pumping out cards weekly or whatever?
I want it to be well, we should talk about the last OTA card after this bit, but I'll say as a last, at least one of my last points, whatever you have to say as well. I want it to be a Series 5 and a Series 4 card a week. Because the first new week of the season, I think, is the best week of the season, because you don't have everyone playing one specific type of deck, unless the 2 cards work together, i.e. this month. But with everything else, like those two cards, they are just different. They work separately. They do whatever, and so you have more branches of decks people are playing, rather than just the new card. But I don't know. Sorry, that was a whole tangent. It started yapping there. I didn't mean to, but it was something I was thinking about, and I was I'll yap a little bit more about I think this last card here.
Yeah, Dan said he's got, before we even started the app, he's like, Tucker, I got this one card right here. I think instead of ever having to nerf Bullseye, this card right here will be what we need.
I think you nerf Blade, and there will be an argument that is potentially not even a nerf, but I don't think Bullseye is the correct hit, because discard is still very good, no matter what. And I know it's not whatever quote unquote top deck and untapped, but it is still very consistent. And I think it's the best card to hit in that whole list. And I think it's simple, Tuck. I've heard people say you remove the targeted discard from Blade. That's incorrect, I believe. I don't believe you can do that. I think discard just dies if Blade does that.
Okay.
But Tucker, what if Blade hits the leftmost card? That just sucks. You get no more Apocalypse value, you get no more Swarm value, you get no more Dakin value, you don't get Khonshu, Scorn, all those cards go way down, because you have to now have the right, because those all come in the right. That's your oldest card, the card you've been holding onto the whole time. Blade gets rid of it. And yes, that can be helpful in a couple specific situations, but as soon as you've discarded a card once, it sucks.
So like, with the Blade change, that does affect regular discard for sure, 100%.
Yeah.
I mean, I know this sounds crazy, and maybe I'm just saying things, but like, we will see.
I've recommended this change, so
we will see
we can talk crazy.
So much more Agatha style decks, and there'll be so much more Agatha value, that this would be just very interesting to see how that affects the meta.
Agatha can go to the right side of your hand. It's fine.
I mean, you said you make Agatha start on the right instead of.
Yeah, just do that. It's fine. I don't know.
But like, Agatha's
I don't good. Whatever. Agatha sucks right now, so I don't even know if that's a bad thing, honestly. And you know what? It works with your Black Knight. So maybe stop working against me here.
I mean, it would be I play Agatha Black Knight, and I have a guaranteed 14 power card I hit every single game. Like, that's not bad. I wouldn't hate it. It would suck for some people to, but
I still think it's worth it. It's different. It's entirely different, and that's why. But I think in the long run this would be a nerf, and I don't.
It's 100%. It's a nerf. Like, there's no doubt about it. It's definitely a nerf.
I honestly didn't know if I was crazy with just calling it a nerf there. So I'm glad that you're specifying that for me. But yeah, right. If it hits the leftmost card, the discard decks, all of a sudden you have to like this becomes, I think, a much more specific card. Again, it can be helpful in specific situations to get that card out of the left side of your hand, but I think more often than not it's worse.
Oh, this legitimately changes discard indefinitely, and it makes your play order matter even more again, because like you said, the way cards you draw, the first card you draw is your leftmost card, so you're trying to get that card out.
First card you draw. Never mind, sorry.
You're trying to get that card out as much as possible, so you can have a better target for Blade. I mean, I totally see what you're saying. It sounds crazy. I don't know necessarily.
Right? I told you it was I told you it's a cook though, but that's like discard's different. Discard's entirely different, and I think it's worse. And I think that would hit all. It hit this Apocalypse. It hit this Dakin stuff. It's. I think I like it a lot.
It would help with MODOK stuff later. Like you just save Blade till the end of the game.
Yeah, it helps. It helps at the end, at the very specific end. But that's all you're doing on the final turn. You have to do that consistently, and that's relying on a very specific combo still.
I'm interested to see how this would work. I'm not 100% sold on it because it.
Yeah, I don't think you have to be 100% sold here, but I love this idea.
Yeah, it's an idea.
Wait. So you would favor against this? Because this is the one I was really cooking.
So like,
drink some water while you give me this.
It's definitely a cook, but I don't necessarily think Blade is the issue. I understand hitting Blade totally does address the whole entire Bullseye deck, but I think it addresses a larger form of other discard too, opposed to just a one deliberate hit, which is what I don't like. Because like if I'm looking at some of these changes for other cards, like if we look at the old Professor X change, like we look at the old like Hela change, like it was way more specific than this being so global of a change, where unless Blade stats are dramatic, which this is the most played one drop, which is true, which that is.
So that was the other thing I didn't mention earlier. This is the most played one drop, which is again part of the reason why I wanted to say this change. So when we're talking about the most played one drops, this is number one at actually I think it's 18%. I want to say.
Yeah, makes sense.
So, you know what? Hey, let us know down below if I'm cooking here, please. I'd really love to know. I don't respond, but I do read every single comment, actually.
Well, he is cooking. Like, don't get me wrong. Dance is cooking.
Am I cooking or baked? Let's specify.
No. Like, you're cooking. Like, this change is a cook. But, like, the broader question is this change good for the game? Or is this just, like, resets a whole bunch of other stuff? Is just the question.
I love the question.
Yeah. The question, what if, So, like...
Oh, God, let's talk about this season then. Fine, let's talk about these cards.
So, we also have... we're going to be talking about the new cards because we talked about them last week, but we're going to do a brief little recap on what we have coming out this season. So far, we have Kahori coming out today, and then we haven't necessarily talked about the cards that already started out the season. With the season pass card with Captain Carter. How are you feeling about Captain Carter so far?
As I mentioned earlier, I'm so annoyed about the Mysterio bug. So if you don't know it, if you don't know it, you probably aren't playing dumb decks with her. So congratulations. But and so I will say I've been out of town for the last week, so all of my gameplay has been resorted to long drives or whatever, and that's when I'm playing these cards. And with Captain Carter during these long drives, I feel like it's just extremely middling, and I'm really okay with it. I don't think this. Do you think this card needs to get buffed, Tuck?
No.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think this card is perfectly medium, and I think this is not as bad as Symbiote Spider-Man. This is worse than Agamotto, I think. Maybe not actually, but this card is extremely middling, and I think that's fine. I don't want this card to be busted. I just think this is an okay card that I'm honestly really happy with as a design, as a gameplay piece. It's okay, and I think it's fun.
Yeah, no, I think this is just an okay card. I think it's really interesting to add this sort of mechanic, which I was talking about earlier too, where the order you play cards matters. And I think with the way Zabu is, that gives more life to this card too. And I think being able to buff this card, like with other cards that actually give this card power, I think is really awesome, because You have that power in a lane. Your opponent's like, well, they're just going to play this card here. And then they forget that Captain Carter's a card. And then she adds that additional power to the cards you're playing onto her lane, which is gives you, I feel like, another layer of value. Like, okay, well, I need to compensate for the amount of power they're adding. Which card are they dropping onto this lane as well? So, like, I like that aspect of Captain Carter. And I think it's really fun and it's different. And I like this as a season pass card. In this sense, it added like a new kind of like mechanic kind of esque to the game, which was really cool. But I don't think necessarily this card needs to be like a 3 cost. I don't want it to be a 3 cost because if it's a 3 cost, then it's broken because just surfer things. But like,
oh yeah,
Galacta's already played so much right now, and like the Galacta value on this is really cool because essentially this card, if you fill your lane, becomes a 4/18. Like,
yeah,
it's already a 4/9. As long as you fill the lane, so like,
and even if I've been happy playing it in the back lane because or the back row, right? It doesn't matter because if you just play in the back row, then it's still if again, let's imagine a Galacta's there, or I've done it where I filled up the entire lane with everything else and then played this as the last card and also throw Elsa in the deck, and all of a sudden it's adding another 8 power to the other card in that same lane.
Yeah,
this card I think is I'm perfectly happy with what this card does.
Yeah, no, and I think what you said too, even with like the Elsa stuff, right? You could play, if you're playing the Kitty Pryde stuff, you know, you play Kitty into Captain Carter, and Captain Carter then gets the Elsa value, and then you have another, like, there's so many different ways I feel like you can mess around. Giving this card extra power really gives you so much extra value in the lane. So I think it's a fun card. Not necessarily, like Dan said, I think it's more better than Symbiote Spider-Man, close to maybe Agamotto, but like
I think it's
different.
Agamotto level currently.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I will say, I haven't heard anyone talking recently about getting the winds nerfed. When I said that a month ago,
It's true.
so I'm gonna cash in that I told you so right now.
It's true. Dance can cash it in until June when all the other spells come out and you have the guy that gets value from spells being played. But that's of course data.
Tucker, that's
that we're
spoiler.
leaking. I know,
we can't
I know,
talk
I
about
know, I
those.
know.
We're not doing that as a
we can't
section
talk
today.
about, we're not talking about it today.
We're
but
not, yeah.
this card, I was like, okay, I don't hate it. Some good stuff. Now, this card though.
This card's good. I like it.
This
I
card,
like this card a lot.
So like, just good. Like literally, stamp it on him. Goliath is good. It's literally like nothing crazy, right? Nothing crazy. You know what it's doing. It's ongoing power. It's like speed, right? Speed was good, but like good. This is good. Like it's different. Apples to oranges, kind of. But like they're both ongoing cards.
This reminds me of, or is it this? I think the biggest thing that really just makes me think this card is just extremely good is the fact that Sam Wilson is it gives you just 2 cards as value for it. That's amazing, Doug. It's so amazing.
That's what boosts this card more.
Yeah, 100%. I think in the world where Sam Wilson is, I don't know, in a month, maybe this OTA, maybe in 2 months, whenever they finally do nerf Sam Wilson, because they will. I believe it. Whenever that happens, I think Goliath will be perfectly good. He's slightly too good right now, I think, just because Sam Wilson's too good. Once that happens, I think he's going to be perfect.
Yeah, and it's not like Goliath is too good in the sense that he needs to be changed, because I think he's okay with the stat line. But with Sam Wilson, wouldn't be too surprised if, you know.
Yeah. I'm really happy with this first week of this season in particular, because I really feel like this season has done a good, or at least they've started off. Both these cards are really perfectly playable. Yes. And I don't think that either one of them is too good. I don't think either one of them are bad. I just think they're both extremely playable. And there's some wiggle room there for too good, too bad, whatever. It's just like, yeah, I like what they've done here. I think that's really good to see. And I've heard a lot of people saying that the card coming out today, Tuck, is going to be really good. And I'm still not convinced. But I know this was higher up on your list.
So I really like Kahori. If you guys did not know, Kahori is a 4-cost, 6-power card on reveal. Each card in your hand gives one of your cards in play +1 power. This on reveal also can give the same card or multiple cards +1 power multiple times, just depending on how many cards you have in your hand. Let's say you have 1 card on the board, you play Kahori, and then you have 4 cards in your hand. That one singular card gets +4 power on that turn. So it's like a targeted Gwenpool, but it's hand size dependent. And something I really do want to note here. So Galacta of the 3. It goes like Galacta, and then people are either doing Gwenpool, Kahori, and then like those are like the other 3 when it comes to like this 4-cost kind of slot adding power thing, right? So
Sure.
Galacta without Zabu is essentially a 4/11 because and it's 3 power spread out between 2 turns. Kahori with 5 cards in hand is a 4/11 singular turn. So you don't get the value of doing it multiple turns. Gwenpool is essentially a
4/12.
A 4/12, but it's random what cards you hit. So unless of course you have spells in your hand, then you can kind of like determine a little bit better.
And Kahori is also random as well, but yeah.
Yes, but like with Kahori at least, you know what cards on the board are going to be potentially hit. And like you can kind of gauge it a little bit more. Like if you have 5 cards in your hand, Gwenpool, you're like, well, if this hits it multiple times there, this like it's like
yeah.
I like Kahori in the sense more than Gwenpool. I know the power is different because it's +2 in each interaction, but I think to be able to spread the power is really nice with Kahori too. And I think a lot of these decks you're playing, you're not throwing out your entire hand on turns 1, 2, and 3 necessarily. Like I feel like you're still going to get Kahori to at least be a 4/9 or a 4/10. And I think I like her in Surfer as well because a lot of these iterations also with Surfer, you're not playing all of your cards out too. So you're playing maybe 1 card, maybe 2 cards before Kahori. So like those are 2 cards on the board getting hit. Of course, your high roll, your Shaw gets hit. That's amazing, with all the cards you have in your hand. So I just think this card is going to have some really solid value. And it really is going to boil down to like all these other cards, What cards did you play beforehand? What cards are on the board? And I think this is a great buff for Captain Carter, too, because Captain Carter getting an extra point of power in her lane essentially gives even more power to your cards in the back row. And I like this more in that Surfer style opposed to a Gwenpool. And like also as like a final turn cap, like you can play this out potentially with another card generator, whether it be like just even a Kate Bishop. Like this into Kate Bishop is an extra 2 power for Kahori. So like I think what we're thinking about is just this should be around a 4/9, 4/10 on average, which is closer to like a Galacta without Zabu.
And it can get up to a 4/13, which is technically even better than all the other ones. It is just different. That's the biggest thing here. I mean, but you're talking about Surfer a lot. I know you have a Surfer deck in particular with Kaori. Kahori, I can't say words, especially when they're words that are made up in a comic book. But, or no, this one was actually made up on What If. She was a What If original. Yeah, forgot about that. But what's your list look like for her? Because I definitely have a lot less of an idea of what specifically to do here.
So what I have for Kahori is this over here. So you have Luna Snow in this list, which also could be a bad target potentially for Kahori in the sense where the Ice Cube could get the power from Kahori instead, which isn't something you necessarily want to get hit. So that could be a Hope Summers potentially instead. But like with this, you do have a card generator with Iron Patriot, which gives you just an additional card in hand, which you don't have a lot of generators in this Surfer style shell, but you don't have to necessarily in here. Gwenpool has been in this slot for the most part normally, so it could potentially be you keep Gwenpool in here instead of Kahori, but you're using Kahori for your Sebastian Shaw, for your Captain Carter. You can play it out even on a later turn. Like you could go a Surfer into Kahori potentially as well, and then you're also boosting your cards in a variety of different ways. It just depends, of course, on what your board state is looking at. The more cards you have on the board, the less likely you're going to hit the targets you want to hit with Kahori. So if you have like your Broods, you have your Lunas, you have your Juggernaut, you have all this stuff on the board, there is a likelihood you hit more of your Broods instead of a Sebastian Shaw. So you kind of have to like play around with like the way you're positioning your cards, the way you're ordering your cards into some of these other aspects and ideas. But I think Captain Carter is an amazing hit for Kahori. Sebastian Shaw is a great hit. Even hitting Sarah or maybe even Galacta, like some of these other cards that just aren't going to get any buffs from Surfer can help you win lanes because your opponents are thinking you're just dropping Surfer. So when you do get that extra, even 1 power, sometimes even more power from Kahori, that can actually help you win lanes. But I really do think this Surfer list really boils down to, do you want Kahori or do you want Gwenpool? And that's really going to be determined from playtesting itself opposed to just what it looks like on paper.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of stuff there. I think that I'm not going to be the most familiar with Kahori because honestly, I just don't have the best idea of what to do with it. And I like the ideas of, what is it? Just in general, these are a lot of cards you just do want to buff up, obviously. So, I mean, in general, I support this. The only thing that I've said with Kaori is just like, I don't know what I want to hit and the best stuff for it. And so my logic was kind of playing another deck that was going a little bit, that's been doing well recently, and just going for Thanos, but then you're using the destroy combo stuff, because especially with Fire Hair in here as well, and then you got your Misery, you got your, like, you just get a lot of different value from these cards. And then you also have the Hood as a really good card generator in here as well. You've got Thanos drawing extra cards as well. You have a bunch of different things that are going to do this stuff. And my logic here as well was just like, I didn't do the like the stuff that you just talked about right there with like Brood, with Carter and Shaw, because in comparison or in contrast to what's her face, Gwenpool, I think it's just a bigger spread of the power, and I don't know if it's gonna be ever consistent or certain where that power is going. So I just said, like, why not just let it go anywhere? And that was my logic here with Thanos, is you can just have the stones on the board and they can get the power. And what is it? This could be also a deck that you maybe want to run Nolan, but like, I feel like there's just a lot of really solid options here. And the stones and Hood giving you that extra card draw, I think would potentially help you out there with the Kahori plan. And I like the idea of here. I think it's a lot of fun. This is probably where I'd be starting. I'm not confident on Kahori, and this was a card that I ranked, I think, lowest or low, at least on my when I talked about it last week. Okay, yeah. So forgive that I'm not going to go crazy here, but I do think this card's going to be, if this card does well, I like the idea of it being in Thanos. I think Thanos has a very natural place for it, and I think the Fire Hair does even more there.
And like, I really want to pinpoint like the Fire Hair value you can get here before even proccing Kahori or getting Kahori to go off again with a Killmonger into your stones, like Dan said, drawing cards, then into a Kahori so you have more cards into your hands, or even you've already played Kahori and then you play a Killmonger Venom, so then you draw more cards, then you absorb more cards with Venom. Venom gets the value, Kahori then goes off. Additionally, then there's less cards on the board for your Fire Hair to hit, so you can target them a little bit better. Like, the lines in this list are really cool. You also have the Wiccan for extra energy. I think I might honestly like having Nolan here potentially. It just really just depends.
Nolan's a card I legitimately did think, but Zabu's probably fine. You don't need 4/4 costs, and you can probably toss. I would probably say Wiccan, honestly. If you had to toss one, it would be Wiccan, I think, or Kaori, but
or Chi, because I think you're just going so big.
It could be Chi as well. I don't know. You have a lot. I think it's definitely one of the 4 costs, which I know we've kind of talked about them in general during this whole bit. But yeah, I do think that in general, I like this plan, this setup for Kaori.
Yeah, no, I'm very excited just to see where this card lands, but we do need to talk about the state of 4 cost, because there's a lot going on over here. I think I can actually sort by cost. Here. Can't sort by cost, but okay, we'll just scroll down through here based on, this is popularity post Infinite since the last patch, so this is since Tuesday. And of course we do have Shang-Chi towards the top. Let me actually go and instead of popularity, let's do popularity now. That was by tier. Okay. So Sam Wilson still, this is not 4 costs, but just interesting to note. But Chi is almost in 30% of games, so his play rate has gone down just a little bit. A little bit.
That's great. But also, if we're going to talk about 4 costs, obviously the reason I've mentioned Zabu.
Yeah, look at this. All in tier B. Enchantress, Captain Carter, Galacta. So, like, there is some legitimate. Of course, Captain Carter's play rate is also higher because she's the season pass card and people are doing weekend missions. Yeah.
Similarly with Goliath as well. They're both decent, but you also then go down to, I will say, Super Scroll's a card I think either one of us could have also talked about, just because it's not a good card unless it's the new day and you play it to tech against the new stuff.
Yep. Very meta.
Really, I don't know. That's just it's not enjoyable of a card. I don't like it still. I think that this past week showed me that I'm like, I want Super Scroll hit as in some way, because I think it just is too warping currently. I think it's so specific for whatever you're dealing with, and then just makes it so if you play something too good, it's just a meta thing. You have to play it to. I don't enjoy that, and maybe it's fine. I just don't like the fact that is a meta self-corrector that exists. But yeah,
I mean, it's fair. I mean, it's a forecast. It's something to think about. Like, does this need to be like a 5-1, or like, is it okay at a forecast? Like, I'm not seeing Zabu necessarily affect Super Scroll, but it is super meta relevant, and you're looking at like the top decks in the meta, and deck number one is going to be Thanos Ongoing, and the value, and is running Super Scroll already. And then like Doom 2099's list as Super Scroll, and then like Sarah Tech's happening, which is another reason why all these cards are super playable.
And then you've got it for to deal with. There's just so many things you can deal with or try to tech with it.
Yeah,
which is that's cool. I guess I just don't enjoy it. I just don't think it's a very interesting card. But I don't know. There's a lot of different other forecast cards that are currently, I mean, still very. There's still other ones that I think actually at that point it's just Wiccan, and we kind of get to the end of our really good forecasts. I think.
And Miles still is a 4-cost. I mean, technically you'd be like, well, he's a 1-cost because you're moving cards like crazy. But still,
I'm giving him an asterisk there. As a 4-cost.
Looking at his win rate in just that Scream deck alone, when this card is played, you're winning up to 58.5% of your games with a plus 0.38 cube rate. That is pretty high just for playing this, and it's Sam Wilson is a very good just enabler. That Scream deck overall, like with the Miles stuff, like that's just very interesting to note.
Sam Wilson is like a Swiss Army knife. It just does everything you need it to.
And then as we go down,
I will say, Tuck, go down to the. I think at this point we're gonna get to the cards that aren't really relevant. Go down to the bottom. Other than Moonstone. Moonstone's cool. Moonstone's fun. What's at the bottom of the list? At the bottom of all of these cards.
Misery, Negative are there. Negative's rising in popularity. Wait, what is Negative's win rate right now? Negative has a plus 0.5 cube rate at the moment, and almost 50%.
When he's played.
Yeah, when he's played. So
no, that makes sense because people cope stay too often, and that's me. I'm raising my hand.
Wong.
Yep. Did you Tuck? I'm gonna give a spoiler here. The bottom, the worst. The absolute worst, Typhoid Mare.
Typhoid Mare has maybe almost a 60% win rate.
There you go. The worst card in, or at least according to this list that we're currently least played card right now, Tuck, is Warpath.
That's not surprising. Sorry, we're taking our time right now, but there are some forecasts that actually have some crazy high win rates right now. 60% for Ares. That Sauron deck.
I think it's just that deck.
That Sauron deck just wins.
It's literally just the Sauron deck. It's just that Sauron deck.
High Evo has a 58% when he's played. That's good for High Evo.
When he's played, that's actually spicy. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Absorbing Man's low. Proxima. People. I mean, I guess
it's whenever she's get generated. I bet
she's
on
the board. I was about to say, who's playing Proxima?
Yeah.
But like Malekith's gone down. Shuri, I mean, look at Shuri. Pour one out for our girl Shuri.
Remember when this card was busted?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Forecast cards, I mean, there's a lot of really interesting forecast cards that are currently in the game. Jubilee's one that I actually am really sad with. But Sea of Spider-Man also is just like, it's a combo piece that that is the most obvious play thing, similar to Akeem. Where it's just like, okay, I know exactly what your plan is here.
Yeah.
Maybe not even exactly. I know you're doing something here, so I'll just stop it. Somehow. I've got 15 ways I can probably stop it here. Yeah, that seems right, unfortunately.
Okay, well, if you guys are missing Cold Obsidian, this week.
You say cold?
Yeah, cold Obsidian, because I saw Sasquatch right underneath.
Okay, got it.
Horror Machine.
No, these are fun.
Nick Fury.
Yeah. I feel like, how do you feel forecast cards are doing?
So, forecast cards are doing well right now because of Zabu. Of course, that really helps. And it's mainly the tech forecast cards that are doing well, opposed to just the overall forecast cards, which is really interesting to note. Lockjaw needs to change, I was talking about. Oh my gosh.
Oof, that's a hurtful one. That's sad.
You literally lose cubes just playing this card. That's kind of crazy. Same with Spider-Man 2099. Make him a 4 cost.
Hey, if they want to say 4 cost cards are worse, that's all they have to do. Is make him a 4 cost cards.
Oh. I mean, I would assume these are just a handful of games. Why it's -2 cubes.
Because no one's playing them. That feels weird.
Oh my.
Like, yeah, I'm not surprised, but also that feels a little strange.
Hawkeye's play rate, Thaddeus Ross, because you just play at a Warlock instead.
Mm-hmm.
Leech. Don't touch that card. No, but I think like
That's fine.
The 4 cost card slot is the least favorite card slot for most people, unless you have Zabu. But like you have some of the 4 cost cards that are freaking crazy. Like, you know, you have the Chi that can swing a game. You have Enchantress that can swing a game. You have Galacta, which can swing a game or creep a game because like you're just, you know, slowly but surely just like getting more and more power. So it's just very interesting to think about some of these 4 cost cards opposed to any other like card slot. I'd say 4 and 5 cost cards are the most meta relevant card costs in the game. Like I think when it comes down to it,
I still think 5 cost cards are messed up. From like I remember I mentioned that a while ago. I think 5 cost cards are still an issue.
Yeah,
but that's a different probably conversation still. But yeah, I do agree though. In general, that is entirely true.
Which it is so crazy just to think about that overall. But man, I am really not surprised by this or by these stats because it's tech based, it's power based, or it is ongoing based. That is what you have going on for these 4 costs, which kind of similar to these 3 costs. They're kind of tech based or just overall good. And it's just very interesting to think about that, which is why we had that as like one of our topics for today, was that the 4 cost card slot is very interesting. Unless they have the Zabu change stance said, we're gonna continue just to see good handful of them be super relevant, opposed to any of these other kind of archetypes having a variety of different 1s and 2s they can trickle in, which is just very interesting. But you know what else is very interesting, Dance?
What else?
Card generating cards are also very interesting because we're talking about Kahori, and she is determinant on your hand size when it comes to cards that are generated, adding power to the board. There is a different variety of cards that can generate other cards into your hand, which may work with Kahori, may not work. Some of them are meta relevant, some of them are not meta relevant. Some of them are early series cards, some of them are later series cards. But we wanted to talk about some of like the primary examples that we think are going to be like the best home or going to fit really well with Kahori. And I think the Hood is definitely one of those prime examples of cards that just works well with it.
Yeah, I'd agree. The Hood is, I think the Hood is going to be one of the best card generators just because it's the easiest card generator.
Yes.
I think is the biggest thing there. And yes, it is at the negative of like obviously itself. It's at the negative of itself, right? It's a -3, but it still is, I think, one of the best card generators. And then I think I would say the next best, and we're talking about card in hand generators, not ones that like put something on the board, i.e. Sam. But if we're talking about other ones, I'd argue the next one is Kate.
Not Agent 13?
I don't think Age 13 is it. No, Tucker. I do not believe Agent 13 is a good card generator.
What about Mantis? Or Maria
Oh my
Hill?
god, that is a card generator.
Yeah.
Maria Hill has use cases at least for like Wiccan style.
Or Nico.
But Nico is very specifically a card generator, right? It has 1 in its 7 game mode or like 7 phases. Frigga's better. This is one I do think is going to cook because it's a 1 cost that puts 2 cards in your hand. And that's the reason why.
And like, we are going to bring back the Snowguard tech meta. Snowguard is going to come back and she's going to have the tech options with the Hawk to turn off all of these freaking limbos. And we're going to have to trigger locations over and over again. Totally going to be super relevant.
Neither one of us talked about Victoria Hand, I just realized.
Well,
I do think, I know it's not, I just realized when we're talking about our decks for Corey, that I feel like is actually a place where we could have, that could be a legitimate idea, but I don't know.
If you play Kahori out before you play Victoria Hand, yes.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's just like another. They both would give power based off of the cards that you're putting more cards in your hand, or Sentinel generating cards for your hand.
So like Ronin's gonna feast this week, right? We're gonna see Ronin and Darkhawk everywhere because
There you
everyone's playing Kahori, right?
Don't you love it when the meta becomes inbred and everyone's just playing different things to fight for that? Can you tell that I really enjoy it?
Oh, I know you really, really enjoy it. This also is a really
Yeah.
solid card, honestly.
Yeah.
Right
No, I think
now.
Mirage is another really good card as well. That's just gives you a lot of potential, a lot of options that I think are. I like that a lot. I think Mirage is another great shout.
Yeah, she's a like, especially in more of the low ball meta kind of we're playing right now. Like she gets some more value in that sense, which is really nice. What else do we have? We have Collector potentially getting some value from a lot of these card generators and stuff too. Which Dance finally got this variant in his shop.
I did
this past week, which was
did.
nice.
My vault finally was happy. Yeah, Collector's gonna be a fun one. I wonder if that's gonna be good.
Cable
I'm excited
counts.
by that.
It doesn't generate a new card, but it would give you Kahori
Sure,
value.
yeah, you're right. You're right that it does count there. I think that counts in a very. I think that's the loosest counting I would argue so far.
You play bounce Kahori and you bounce cards back with Falcon.
All right, I think you're burnt. It took me forever. I was trying to think there. I'm like,
No.
how does this work? And I'm like, oh my gosh, that sounds like more of a cook than just trying to use original Joaquim.
It's true. And then of course Iron Patriot is gonna be. I mean, it's already still everywhere. So like,
It's in less places. I'm happy with the nerf they did, but it is definitely still everywhere.
it's still
a good card.
Good. Like the downside is, oh
Yeah.
no, now it cost only 3 less instead of 4 less. Woo.
I know people are always gonna say like, oh, I should get Iron Patriot because it's like it's a card that's in a lot of decks. I really think this is one of the more replaceable cards in a lot of decks now, especially. And if you're looking for new cards you want to get, by all means, if you really like Iron Patriot, go for it. But I'm gonna give a potential hot take here. I think this is one of the last cards you should actually be getting because it's the most replaceable, and you should be focusing on trying to get more cards that are very specific for other decks. So cards that you need in order to play a specific list, much more so than Iron Patriot, who is replaceable by design.
I don't think he's lower tier. I think he's more middle, but I don't think he's a must-get card, like in your top variety
That's
of
fair.
cards to get. I would still choose Iron Patriot over like a Valentina.
I think they're both the same for me. I agree
Maybe
that I would
same
probably
tier, but I would put Iron Patriot above Valentina on that tier.
Yeah. I think they're both in the same style of the card.
Yeah.
Where it's just like they both can just be good cards, but neither one of them does something revolutionary. And if we're going to talk about card generator, just like I mentioned earlier, Victoria Hand is, if you don't have Victoria Hand and you want to play a deck that runs Victoria Hand, you need Victoria Hand.
Yes.
If you want to play a Victoria Hand deck and you don't have Iron Patriot, there are replacements you can use.
Yes.
But you can't do that unless we can't do that with like a card like this, which is my logic here, I think.
Yeah, and I think even though, like what Dan's saying is totally true, this card still is more niche in a sense of what you're trying to do, but is a really good enabler for these card generators. She doesn't generate cards itself. She just gives you the value for cards that are created in your hand. So like they have to be cards that are created in your hand, not created in your deck, not stolen from your opponent's deck. But like Mirage work because you're getting a copy. So a copy function works as a created card. So that is really cool to think about. We also have, we get to the 3 costs.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
Yeah. When you get to the 3 costs, it really starts getting interesting the further and further down you go. But what is it? Another interesting one, again, Agent Coulson is one that's always fit into, I think, a lot of lists just for a long period of time. And so that's another one I think is an interesting conversation to be had nonetheless. Dakin, obviously Dakin discard, you gotta love it. You got to, right? Legally.
Which that
people are
could be
annoyed by it.
interesting. I've seen some people thinking about putting Kahori into this discard shell too. Because, I mean, Dakin getting power before he gets the shard discarded doubles his power, which is interesting. But I think that shell is kind of just good as is. You don't actually add Kahori in there. But
That's my logic there. They're right that could give you value. but I'd argue that there's a much larger chance that you kind of want that list to stay as is. I think. But
Like
I don't know. I wish this card was good. I don't know. Do you think she's gonna be good in Rivals?
Oh, she's gonna be borderline busted, almost banned in every ranked game.
Is she?
But yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Okay.
she's gonna be really good. She's gonna be really, really good at Rivals.
I don't know, so that's why I'm asking, because
Yeah,
I trust you more than I trust myself there.
She's gonna be really, really solid.
That's fair.
I don't think. I mean, yeah, there's Nick Fury. Nick Fury is the card generator, which you guys see in the video when they're showcasing all of the new cards. You know, Nicholas.
Thank goodness.
Fury. Woohoo!
Nick Fury gonna be busted. I'm stoked.
What else do we have? Misery can enable you to have more cards in your hand to generate more cards.
Yeah, Misery's like a Misery Grandmaster, Absorbing Man, Iron Lad, all the cards that are gonna redo stuff. Dude, I've given up on Devil Dino until they buff this card, and I don't think they ever will. I've given up on it.
These aren't created in your hand, but these are cards that are generated that would give you, because it just counts cards in your hand, not characters in your hand for Kahori. So I think Agamotto.
Yeah, it's cards. Agamotto is another one. Actually, one that I was gonna say, there was a world where I was thinking of doing Agamotto with King Eitri. King Eitri, I think, is actually a legitimate thing, especially in terms of like trying to fill up your hand. You could play it on turn 4.
Yeah,
which was my logic there.
You could activate just to have an additional draw to be able to get more value.
Exactly. Yeah.
Isan kind of works with some of these card-generated cards too, pull them to Isan's location, which is pretty nice.
We've also forgot Moon Girl.
Moon Girl, true. Moon Girl. You could also discard your Helicarrier.
Yeah, we've seen the stats on these. What do you think is going to be the best one? What do you think is going to be the best? Let's stop misleading everyone. Let's just say, what do you think is going to be the best?
What do
you think is going to be the best one here?
I think the absolute best card generator card is just going to be Kate Bishop. Just case in point, like, yes, you're maybe wanting to play these arrows out earlier, but I just really think like this card, playing it out, keeping your arrows in hand, maybe you're playing your Ass Arrow early, but it gives you just an additional 1 power for your Kahori. You don't have to keep both arrows in your hand, playing this out at the end of the game. Like, it just reasons with it.
I think that's just one of the better ones. Yeah, I think there's a potential with legitimately King Eitri. I do like the idea is the fact that you can play it or activate it on the same turn. And I think that might give some legitimate strategies. I don't know if it's going to be good, but that's my logic there.
Yeah.
But I think that I do agree that probably the best one would simply be, would just be, I think, Kate Bishop. I just like King Eitri for that exact logic there. But I think, I don't know. I'm excited to see what's going to happen with Kaori. Kaori's coming out, I think, very, very soon as of recording this. I think she might actually be live right now as we're talking, Tuck. But we'll see what's going to happen here. I'm interested. But if you want to see, for what it's worth, other interesting things that are going to be happening, I do think, right, Tuck, youtube.com/@Tucker. And you didn't have your internet go out nor go to Ireland. So you've actually been uploading videos over the last couple of weeks, unlike someone else here. And you've also been streaming, unlike someone else here. You've been posting TikToks, and that's not even just because of my internet. That's just because I don't want to. youtube.com/Tucker, or @Tucker. Twitch.tv/Tucker. And did I say TikTok? TikTok.com. Is it TikTok.com/Tucker?
I think so.
Go follow Tucker. Tucker's an awesome guy, y'all. Tucker's about to enter a pretty awesome phase of his life that I'm jealous of, and I think is going to be really sick. And you got to wish him the best of luck here as he gets ready for this phase. Please, go ahead. Drop the follows, drop the subscriptions, drop the likes, the comments, drop the hard eyes. Go ask him when he's going to be starting his only Tucks. Whenever that's going to happen. We've all been asking for it for a while. I #OnlyTux. That's what I'm still waiting on, honestly. But great guy. Please check this dude out. He's awesome. What are you doing?
Guys, I want you guys to pretend Dance did not just brainwash you there. Okay. I want you guys to think of that first and foremost. Secondly, I want you guys, after this video is uploaded, which should be today at the time of recording as well, Dance should be live, so I need you guys to tune in to his stream as he breaks down Kahori, talks about his trip. He also had a really cool IRL celebration yesterday as well. Huge kudos to him in 6 years, without spoiling too much. So huge kudos to you there. But please make sure you're following him on all of his socials as well, which will be down in the description. But if you guys don't know how to read, I can actually just say it for you guys. And that is going to be twitch.tv/notmydance, youtube.com/notmydance, twitter.com/notmydance, bluesky.com/notmydance. He's not on TikTok just yet. Maybe he will be on TikTok because this man posts some freaking banger clips. He has some solid reactions, playing Marvel Snap, as well as some of these other games you guys might enjoy as well. Definitely tune in to all of his content and follow all of his links that are down in the description below. We do really appreciate you guys hanging out with us today. We're going to continue trying to be more consistent with our uploads and uploading our videos when it comes to our deck guides, as well as these yaps on the right time on a pretty solid schedule. Things might get a little hazy here this next week.
I'm about to say, I'm pretty sure that you say that. We should wait till next week.
Yes.
Or maybe like a week after, where we say we were going to start trying to do.
But yaps. The yap should stay consistent, bearing any setbacks. But we do really appreciate you guys enjoying the content. If you guys do want to see more live yaps, it's maybe something we could do every other month. Definitely, probably not once a month kind of thing. But if it's something you did enjoy, having the live reactions and everything too, let us know down below. And we will be out on the mobile platforms as well, not just on YouTube for any just audio listeners. But we appreciate you guys hanging out. Until next time, it's been real, and laters.